पूजनीय परम वंदनीय माँ शीतोषामणी जी की जय। परम पूजनीय परम श्रद्धेय बाबा जी महाराज जी की जय। महाश्री आशुतोष भगवान जी की जय। सच्चे दरबार की जय। Wherever you can hear my voice, I would like to humbly request you to pause any seva, any work, and come and join me here in the satsang pandal and listen to satsang. जहाँ जहाँ तक हमारी आवाज जा रही है, हम सभी को कहना चाह रहे हैं कि सत्संग शुरू होने जा रहा है, कि सत्संग प्रवचनों के लिए वो उपस्थित हो जाए सत्संग के पंडाल में। Before we begin, I would like to just share a little anecdote. Satsang has been a major part of my life since childhood. I've honestly been blessed to be able to go from place to place, to be able to, all over the world, in many places, hear the greatness of God. But the one and only who had actually shown me the truth behind these stories, who had actually taken, which was merely a word, which was satsang, and showed me the true meaning. Sat means truth, sang means to meet. To meet the truth was my Gurudev, Sir Shri Ashutosh Maharaj Ji, Ma Ashutosh Amri Ji, and Babaji Ashutosh Ambar Maharaj Ji. They took the time to show me the true practicality of what God is, who God is. Showed me within myself where God resides, and gave me that divine technique through which I could convene with the Almighty. So I'm inviting you all to come, pause, and listen, because I believe what you will hear today and in many following satsang pravachans in these spiritual discourses will be life-changing. It changed my life from someone from very humble beginnings, a child with many difficulties. Over time, disciplined me into quite a gregarious teenager, supported me throughout adulthood, and now in this time, Ma Shitoshami Ji showed me what true life is and how it is to be lived. So I would like to bow down into the lotus feet of the Supreme Divine Mother, Ma Shitoshami Ji, of His Divinity, His Holiness, Babaji Ashutosh Ambar Maharaj Ji, and His Holiness Mahashri Ashutosh Maharaj Ji. So one more time, let's hail into their lotus feet together. तो बोलिए परम पूजनीय परम वंदनीय माँ आशुतोषामणी जी की जय। परम पूजनीय परम श्रद्धेय बाबा जी महाराज जी की जय। महाश्री आशुतोष भगवान की जय। सच्चे दरबार की जय। हे माँ, 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 हे He Ma, He Ma, He Ma, He Ma, He Ma, He Ma, He I have started today's spiritual discourse with the Avan of that Supreme Divine Mother. And there's a reason for doing this. Because today I want to discuss with you, I want to bring forward the topic, the idea of sadhana. So when we speak about sadhana, this is a term that is used very often in the world, usually for a spiritual practice or a musical practice, because music is linked very deeply with spirituality. This spiritual practice, they talk about how people go about doing sadhana. So for example, if we take music for example, for if it's learning an instrument like the violin or the sitar, the harp, the harmonium, anything, they call it a sadhana. And when I looked into this, in English, it actually translates to manifestation. But in terms of music, how does manifestation make sense? And this is what I wanted to talk about. Because to manifest something in your life means to take something spiritual, or sometimes in the West, it's something theoretical, because they haven't practically experienced it, to bring it into practice to such an extent that it becomes real. And through many discourses, our spiritual texts, and even now science, is consistently talking about the supreme superconsciousness. Here, very openly in the East, we proclaim it's God, we proclaim it's Ram, it's Sham, that it is Guru who comes embodying those powers and that enlightens us. In the West, the concept of God has now become almost a taboo, which in many ways is quite interesting. Because we now have authors such as Richard Dawkins, many others, that are so passionately atheist that they do such in-depth research to prove that there isn't a God. But if something doesn't exist, you then do not need to make an effort to prove it doesn't exist. If it's not there, it's not there. Meaning that even those that don't believe in God or don't think the concept of God makes sense to them, they know there is something more. What they're actually fighting against is how religion has now suddenly become institutionalized. Institutions have become, people have become gatekeepers of God. They don't know who God is, they don't know what God is, but they've become gatekeepers. God is often described as omnipresent, as all-powerful, omnipotent. And that is everywhere, pervading everything. Yet, there's many that sit on whatever thrones that they have created themselves, or have come from place to place that have been going on from tradition and have sat on them, and have decided they are the gatekeepers of God. How can you gatekeep infinity? How can you gatekeep something that is all-powerful? It means that we all are sitting with a concept and not of reality of what truly God is. In the Bible, it is said that God is light. In him there is no darkness at all. And and we leave it at that. What do we mean that God is light? But then this is further verified in the Bhagavad Gita, when Lord Krishna himself says, Jyotishamapi tad jyoti tamsa parmochyate jnanam geyam jnanagamyam hirde sarvishtitam. Says, I am the light of all lights, I am the knowledge of all knowledge, I pervade everything and I live within each and every one. This concept, this idea that God is within each and every one, exists everywhere. Even those that don't believe, they still go, we should treat each other with kindness because there is life in that individual. Somewhere, very deep within, we all have a respect for life. Maybe selfishly, maybe just our own and not others. But many, I have been very privileged to meet very, very kind people that not only think of themselves, they think of others as well. They know there is something to bow down to within humanity, within each other. To quote Tolkien, there is very little good in the world, but it's worth fighting for. And that's why, as humanity, we keep, even though there's horrors that are continuously in the world. I mean, the army of the United Kingdom actively is in combat with 33 countries at the moment. There's many other countries in combat with one another. Over what? Over land, over weapons, over money. Over things that can't bring them peace. There is no such thing as a world war for peace. You cannot bring peace through war. It is like trying to create peace by exploding a bomb. How does that bring peace? That brings chaos. Why are our solutions all based in chaos? Because when it comes down to humanity, there's two things that we do consistently, that we do non-stop on a continuous cycle. And that forges our reality. The first thing is breathe. We all breathe. If we're not breathing, we're not alive. We are constantly taking breath. But this process is unconscious to us. We are not conscious to it. We breathe when we wake, we breathe when we sleep, we breathe when we eat, when we bathe, we breathe. And there's another thing that humans do non-stop, and that is think. A very famous philosopher said, I think, therefore I am. Said, I think, therefore I am. And people went, no, how is that possible? If you are, then you can think. But actually, I think we all miss the deeper meaning of what that philosopher was trying to say, because philosophers don't always talk about the ground level, just the physical. I think, therefore I am. The I am he is talking about is the ego. It is our thinking that creates our reality. What we think about, how we think, what our perspective is. Our perspective is molded by many things, the environments we've been brought up in, our parents, our genetics, many things. If we think negatively or positively about a situation, a very neutral term. For example, if someone says to you, oh, you look very good today, one individual will take that as, oh, that's really kind. Someone is saying, I look very good. Another person will say, they said, oh, I look very good today. Does that mean every other day I do not look good? That there is something missing? The phrase is neutral. The phrase is kind. However, there's two very different ways of looking at it. So how is it that we have manifested the life that we have today? Why are we in pain? Why are we in peril? Why is there chaos? Why is there no peace? Why are we struggling? Why are we constantly fighting our battle with our mind and our body? You find when one thing goes right, 10 things go wrong. We're constantly jumping through hoops to bring some kind of balance into our lives. And the truth is, because we're not clear on where our thoughts are coming from. Because when we think, there's neurons that get activated in our brain. Every time a thought is fired, it's called fired. If you've ever seen a gunshot, if you've ever seen a gun, whenever the gunshot goes off, there's a slight spark. You'll see it. Sometimes very subtle. The same thing in our brain. When our neurons are firing, when they're thinking, there's bolts of light. That's what that energy is. But we actually don't know where our thoughts are coming from, and we are unconsciously creating a life, manifesting things in our life that make no sense to us. That I am a good person, that I do good things, so why do bad things happen to me? Why am I living in such a way? Why am I poor when I work so hard? All these thoughts cross our minds. There's a very interesting study. Science has shown us that our subconscious mind does not know the difference between who we are and somebody else. It doesn't know the difference. So for example, if you think negatively of someone, and it might be justified, they may have done something that is triggering, that isn't right, that you might feel is unjust. But when you think about it and you focus your energy on them and what they've done, and then you think ill of them, your mind, your subconscious mind starts scanning. It starts scanning the environment to confirm what you're doing. Because the reality you're living is responding to who you are. You attract what you are. How is this possible? What are you saying, sister? I'm not a bad person, so how am I attracting that? Our thoughts, again, like I said, are unconscious. So this is where the concept of sadhana comes in. In the West, they talk about the law of manifestation, of how to manifest things. So for example, if you want to manifest money, what you do is you start putting yourself in a thought pattern and mindset that you already have it. First of all, you think, I have this. You have to keep repeating that. Then you need to let it go. You need to believe that you've received it. For example, when we place an order for something, we've paid, we've done it, we don't worry about it because we know it's going to arrive. Then you let go. And then you continuously doing action. Not that you don't want that thing anymore, not letting it go like that, but now you start taking conscious action. Because you're like, if it's arriving anyway, for example, you've got a blender that's arriving. You've ordered a blender, you're going to start making smoothies, you're going to start making ice creams, you're going to start making really nice sauces. This is what you're going to do, you're waiting for it. Great. Now you've placed the order, you've paid the money, it's going to arrive. So what do? You start taking aligned action to make it happen. What do? You start buying your fruits. You start looking up recipes. You start putting a plan together. Why? Because when it arrives, this is how I'm going to use it. We don't do that with our lives. Unless consciously we're told so. But the reason being is because we don't know the source. To connect with the source, we need to go into our Shastras, into our Purans, into our Vedic knowledge. Why? Philosophers time and time again have said, if you want a new idea, read an old book. And the oldest is our Vedas. And the Vedas actually talk about how life should be lived. They talk about at least every single aligned action you should take to live a good life. Sanatan Dharma is, that's why it's known as one of the best, or the best of all religions. And I'm not saying this from a limited perspective, I'm saying it from a practical experience. Because Sanatan means eternal. Dharma means your righteous duty, as in it means to be aligned in action, that will eternally not only serve you, but will serve humanity. To manifest this, if we go into our Vedas, when the parts are read, when the Granths are read, they say, Shiv Sankalpamam Mastu. What do they say in that whole verse? They talk about Shiv Bhagwan Ji here. They say that this universe was manifested through his sankalp, through his determination. He brought it into fruition. You may call it the Big Bang Theory in the West. Something happened that created this reality in front of us. But what was his thinking? I'm talking about thought here. He is known, when we read about his character, when we read the Guru Gita, when we read the histories, Shiv Bhagwan is known as the Supreme. Why? Because everything he created and everything he wanted and everything he worked towards was for the betterment of all. So in that life, Shiv Sankalpama Mastu, what are they saying? That you should have that thought. You are the crown of creation. You are human. You are one of his best creations. And you are being given clear guidance that you should be thinking in a way that benefits you and benefits others. And the only way to do that is to become conscious of thought. And this practice is put into practice through meditation. So when we meditate, we become very aware of the thoughts that are going through our mind. We then realize that there's so many things that are going on. In that silence, when we're trying to focus on our technique, we struggle because our thoughts overpower us. When in fact, in time and time again, in the West, we're given this practice of just observing your thoughts. But there's actually a technique, there's actually a way that goes beyond this. And that is divine knowledge, Raj Vidya, Par Brahm Gyan, who my Guru Ma Shitoshamri Ji introduced to me. There's a shlok in the Guru Granth Sahib that says, Man tu jot saroop hai apna mool pehchan. That, oh mind, you are that divine light. You are part of that divine light. Understand your origins. Your origin, where you come from, to go to the exact source. In order to go to the source, we need to know what the source is. If I am here and our granths here are saying that God is that source, then we need to go to God. And if God is beyond our senses, as our Shastra said, then we need to go to someone who can show us God, who can meet us with God. If you ever need anything, for example, if you are looking to buy gold, you need to go to a jeweler that is an expert in gold. And when you show up there, you need to ensure, even though the individual in front of you, the jeweler in front of you is the expert, you still, before you buy anything, you get them to run all the tests to prove to you that the gold that you are buying is pure and is exactly what you were looking for. And this is what our Shastras do. They talk about that Supreme God. They say God is that Prakash Shrup, but they also say how you would find God. And they say you need to go to such an individual that can show you that truth. The Sant Sang Antar Prabditha, Naam Prabhu Ka Laga Mitha, Sagal Samagri Ekas Katmahi, Anek Rang Anana Dristai. Again, he said that when you meet with a Sant, so you know, for your gold you need to go to a jeweler, for your bread you need to go to a baker, for your sweets you need to go to a halwai. They're telling you all these things. But to go to see God, to be able to meet with God, you need to go to a Sant who has seen God and can show you. This is why here, when we speak about Hanumanji, when we speak about Mirabaiji, when we speak about Yoganand Paramahansa, we speak about Jesus, we speak about all those saints that have come in time, when we speak about their life stories, what are we talking about? Why are those stories talked about? Because they understood that life's objective is to know who I am and where I come from. कि तुम हो कौन, कहाँ से आए, कहाँ है निजगर तेरा, किस कारण तुम भर मत डोलो, तन तज कहाँ बसेरा. Our saints asked these questions and they found the solution, and then they wrote it down and gave us that guide. That if you follow this, you will achieve the truth. You will understand what your source is, and then you will no longer be living unconsciously. You will become conscious to the fact that you are part of that supreme super consciousness, that that's where you originate from. It's easy to say Shivoham, 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 that I am that Almighty. And many people believe that. But to know that you originate from that source and how you originate and how you want to live, that is a process. That is a technique. And in order to get that, you need to go to the master who can and who will. Because in Vivekananda's life, he had asked those 3 poignant questions. He was very talented, very well read, very well educated. He wasn't just anyone. And actually, none of you are just anyone, if you have a degree or not, if you're educated or not. Because if you have received this human body, it means that God has sent you to meet with God. If you want proof that the reason that God wants you to meet with Him, wants you to become one with Him, you just need to pause and look at the fact that you have this human body. Now you need to go a step further. You now need to start thinking about your reality. What are you living? Because your reality is to responding to who you are. But you are unconscious to who you are. You don't know who you are. So you must go out and find out exactly who you are. And to do that, you will need to go to the source. You will need to go to such a guru. Because in the Guru Gita, Shiv Bhagwan Ji himself is talking about the greatness of Guru. So it says, Gyan Devi Randasya, Gyan Anjan Shalakya, Chakshuran Militam Yena, Tasmai Shri Guru Ve Namaha. There's such a Guru that opens this third eye, takes away my ignorance and shows me that divinity within, puts in that coal of Gyan, that now I can decipher what is reality, what is true, and what is darkness and what is ignorance, so I can live. They say ignorance is bliss. Why? Because you can't focus on what you don't know. All knowing is painful, but it's necessary. Because pain helps you grow, helps you become. It's important for us to go through such a process. Those individuals that decide that they're going to start taking care of their health, for example, if they want to lose weight and gain muscle, they go through a process of breaking down their fat in their body and for it to become muscle. But what do they need to do for that? They need to start lifting heavy. And that's painful. What does it do? First thing it does is it tears tendons. It tears the muscle. The muscle needs to be torn. Then the body works. The energy is then put in to create it and bring it in. To be able to see within our minds, to be able to see what is happening within us, we need to be able to see. And we cannot see if there is no light. In the day, we can see everything. At night, it's absolutely difficult. You cannot see. This ignorance we've been living in for lifetimes and lifetimes, a Bodhan Satta comes into our life. If we are very lucky, which we all here have been fortunate to be, and shows us that truth within us, that God exists and God can be seen. So Vivekananda went out finding that actually our Shastras say this, that God exists and God can be seen. So he went from place to many individuals who to him looked like sons from the outside because they were wearing everything that made him look like a son. And asked the question, does God exist? All of them said, yes, God exists. Now he was hopeful, this is great, God exists. And the fact that they're saying God exists, it means they must have some tangible proof that they can share with me. So then he says, can God be seen? Many, or actually all, paused and said, no, God cannot be seen. Wrapped him up in very fancy words that we can show you all the tantras, we can give you all these guidances, you can do all sorts of things, you can mind control other people, you can do this, you can have any power in the world. But we can't show you God. God cannot be seen. Why? Because your past karma is so bad. How do you know? You don't even know your own karma. You don't know who you are. Because you haven't seen. Okay, but he didn't sit and debate. God can't be seen because God is beyond these senses. Yes, that's true. That is 100% true, that God is beyond these senses. Cannot be seen through these eyes. Cannot be heard through these ears. Cannot be known or experienced like this. But our Shastras say, Bade bhag manush dan pava sur durlabh sab granthi gava sadhan dham moksha ka dwara. Sadhan dham moksha ka dwara. What they're saying, it's a sadhan, it's a medium. They talk about moksha ka dwara, they're talking about this dasma dwara, this third eye. This divine eye. Tell me this then, why can God not be seen? If the receptors that help us see light, that help us see this world, exist within these two eyes, and also exist within the pineal gland, which the West now is deeming is the proof of the third eye. When our Vedas and Shastras had proved this ages ago. How is it that this eye that is not on the outside, this pineal gland, actually tells us when it's time to sleep and wake up, runs our circadian rhythm, even if our eyes aren't open and we can't see outwards, it will tell us when it's dark outside or when it's light outside, when it's day and night. How does it do this? What is its parameters? How come it has photoreceptors that can pick up light, that can see? It means we haven't gone into depth to investigate that actually our internally, we hold all the answers. That everything we need to achieve our purpose of knowing God, of seeing God, and becoming one with God, exists within this human body, exists within that mind. However, we need someone to activate it and guide us and show us how we pull this energy that's in our body, we understand what the true source is and how to use it so we can now start living consciously. Because sadhana means to bring it into such a practice, to bring something spiritual, theoretical. It's theoretical for you until you haven't seen, until you haven't experienced it, into such practice. Practice meaning there must be a technique. There's a technique to play the sitar. There's a technique to play the guitar. There's a technique to play the drums. There's a technique to speaking. There's a technique to walking. There's a technique to running. To bring it into such practice that it becomes your reality. It is my reality. I walk, I talk, I sing, I dance, I live. This is real. You see it and I see it. How? Because I have done it to such an extent, I have practiced that technique, that you cannot differentiate that from me. You can't differentiate that from you. So how can you differentiate yourself from God? Because you have not seen yourself and you have not seen God. So you need to go to such a guru that can show you God within yourself. So Vivekananda carried on and carried on and carried on.
Eventually, no avail. He was heartbroken. Again, why? Imagine his thinking. That thought process that was going on was, I am heartbroken. Why? Why was he heartbroken? Because one, either that God can be seen, and these people are walking around as the gatekeepers of God, gatekeepers of spirituality, gatekeepers of religion, and they can't show God. They don't know God. What a tragedy. What a devastation. And another, that if God exists, God must be seen. So if they're saying God cannot be seen, does this mean that God does not exist? He's thinking, he's praying, he's wanting to know the truth. Then his neighbor and his friend invites him from satsang into his home. And he says, no, I've had enough. Because he's heartbroken. My search hasn't been fruitful. But no, he convinces him, please come. So he shows up. And he sings a song. And he sings it for that supreme consciousness. The essence being that where are you? I am looking for you. When will you manifest into my life? When will I see you? And there, his neighbor, his friend's Guru Ramakrishna Paramahansaji, says to him, because Vivekananda's name was Narendra, before he was enlightened, turns around and says, Narendra, the hymn that you have just sung, that song that you have just sung, is so beautiful. And then Vivekananda, in his pain, in his frustration, goes, I have not sung this for you. I have sung this for the Almighty. Ramakrishna Paramahansa says, I know. But then a thought runs through Vivekananda's mind. He asks, Narendra at that point asks his questions. Because, hold on. The individual in front of me, Ramakrishna Paramahansa, looks like his son. Why not ask him as well? What can I lose? So asks him, is there God? Ramakrishna Paramahansa says, yes, there is God. Then he says, can God be seen? Ramakrishna Paramahansa says, yes, God can be seen. And that was enough for Narendra to now start focusing. What? God can be seen? It's the first person, the first individual to say this. And his third question, before he could even answer it, before he could ask it, Ramakrishna Paramahansa answers it for him. He goes, how close you are sitting with me. God is even closer than that with me, and I am with God. The way I see God, I can show you God within yourself. Because Vivekananda's third question was, what is the proof? Can you show me? And Ramakrishna Paramahansa, when he bestows that divine knowledge on Vivekananda, that's when he went from Narendra to Vivekananda. That's when his Vivek was Jagrat, his higher intellect was awoken. Why? Because he understood, I am not this body, I am not this mind. We're coming back to that shlok. Man tu jyotis sarup hai, apna mool pehchan. Understand your origins, mind. So it means the mind isn't the origin. There's an origin of the mind. To become one with that origin. And that was deemed as Vivekananda because now he was given this divine technique through which he could consistently convene with God. He could sit in that meditation and consistently practice that technique. And as he consistently practiced that technique, God manifested within his life fully. And that's why we even still sing the praises of Swami Vivekananda. That's why today we still sing the praises of Sai Baba. This is why we sing the praises of Yudheshwari Ji. This is why we sing the praises of Mirabai and many sons and saints. And the truth of the fact, many people will ask this thing, people that will want to fight and argue. How do you even know that these people existed? Fair enough, Yoganand Paramahansa we can understand, Swami Vivekananda we can understand, because in recent history we've got documentation. But how do we know that Kabir Das Bani Dees has written, that somebody hasn't just written it now and given someone else's name? And the reason for it is that as I see that divine light within me, because having received that divine knowledge, I see that light roop of that light manifestation of God, that tattva sarup of that Ishwar. I have also seen all of those saints, showing that they transcend all knowledge, that where they were then, they are here now, and they will always be. So to be able to bring this manifestation of God, of your purpose into life, you need to go to such a practitioner, such an advanced practitioner, to such a Puran Guru that can show you this truth within yourself. And then you can bring it in to your reality. Because at the beginning I said there's two things that we as humans do consistently non-stop. Do you remember what the first one was? The first one, you're correct. The first one was breathing, which we do unconsciously, which is an unconscious process. But now, once you receive that divine knowledge, you understand that that name of God exists within each breath of yours. You become anchored and you understand and you become one with that vibration. You practice. You start now living consciously. It pulls you into the present. That suksha, that subtlest of vibration, you start tuning into that. You start fine-tuning this instrument, which is this body, to achieve God. This starts running when your unconscious process becomes conscious. Then the thinking that you were doing unconsciously now becomes conscious as well. And then that practice brings you into a point where you can now mold where you put that energy. How you think, how you live. Now you are living from a supreme super consciousness level, from a super consciousness level, not a subconscious level. This doesn't happen overnight. This is a long practice, but a worthwhile practice. As with anything, when you start learning a musical instrument today, 2 years later you'll be amazing. 5 years later you'll even be better. 10 years you might be an expert. But lifelong you can only get better and better. And same is with this path. Because humans are born, and the one thing we are constantly told that you are constantly learning. But to learn consciously, to be able to change yourself in such a way that the reality you're living responds to you. If you are vibrating at the highest possible energy level, then you will be living a reality which is of the highest form. Hence, only then can you proclaim yourself as an individual, as the crown of creation, because humanity is the crown of creation. Because you've gone from your Agya chakra being activated to now your crown chakra being activated. This is the process. This is the practice. This is the sadhana. This is the manifestation to bring into our lives. We constantly talk about embodying the divine feminine or the divine masculine. It's become a major debate for psychology. And it's been taken the wrong way. The world constantly speaks of this. That to be a divine feminine, you need to do this, this, this. But all those things are centered in ego. Again, with the divine masculine. Because they don't know that the true divine masculine, who it is, what it is, and who the true divine feminine is. The true divine feminine, Ma Shito Shamriji, the supreme manifestation of that divinity. I have not only seen her and lived her within my body and within the realms of that supreme super consciousness, but physically in that manifestation, her divinity has been without bounds. Because only she has the power to change any individual from being unconscious to conscious to move towards super consciousness. Hence, she has created a full army of sannyasis, which only she could do, to truly embody what it means to be aligned with that true supreme. And that's what the world needs now. The world was divided into 4 classes. You had your sannyasis, you had your grihsthas, and you had your many others, you had your brahmacharis and so on. And they were given their actions. The problem is, in society today, what do? We live from the bottom up. We consume, we consume, we consume. We don't output. The input to output is unbalanced. So now, in order to change any system in business, if you want to change how your company works, your ground workers, you can keep changing them. You will find in many government departments, corporate environments, you keep changing your daily forward-facing, customer-facing teams. You might have some really good jewels in there, but your practices still do not align. Things still do not streamline, things don't improve. But when you go right to the top and you change your CEO, or you change your practices from higher management all the way down, then the whole practice, the whole company becomes completely different, completely transformed. Again, when it comes to becoming of life, the change needs to happen from the top down. We need to connect with that source. We need to be connecting with that supreme to be able to actually be able to change who we are. To be able to live a good life. To be able to live the life we were created for. Because a human was not made to suffer. A human was made to live and to show this whole world what living truly means. But actually all we're doing at this point is destroying ourselves and destroying others. We only know destruction. We can only value something when we know the value of it, when we know what it is. We do not know the value of our lives. We don't know the value of who we are. We don't know the value of our breath. We don't know the value of our mind. And we don't understand our own power. And to do that, we need to go to the all-powerful, which is our Guru. And Ma Shitoshamriji not only showed us, she helped us live it. And each and every day, through each and every practice, takes us there. Babaji Ashutoshambhar Maharaji takes us on this path all the time so that we can manifest this into our reality. In order to do this, we first need to go from unconscious to conscious. And for that, you need a Bodhisattva who can show you God within yourself. This is a very long topic, and I will advance on it next time when I meet with you all. But for now, I would like to pause my words here. Thank you all for listening, and I hope that you all take something away. Do your chintan, analyze, and see where you can start taking the first actionable steps to moving towards a better reality. So बोलिए परम पूजनीय परम वंदनीय माँ शीतोषाम्बरी जी की जय। परम पूजनीय परम श्रद्धेय बाबा जी आशुतोषाम्बर महाराज जी की जय। महाश्री आशुतोष भगवान जी की जय। सच्चे दरबार की जय।